I'm waiting for my mom. The maid's toddler said on Christmas. The billionaire couldn't believe. I'm waiting for my mom. The little girl said it so softly that half the ballroom didn't even hear her. But Daniel Whitfield did. He stopped mid-step, and the laughter and clinking glasses around him seemed to fade, because the moment he saw her face, and the worn brown teddy bear clutched tight in her arms, something inside him went completely still. He knew that bear. He had given it away 7 years ago, to a man who never made it home. Daniel Whitfield was hosting his family's Christmas Eve gala, the way the Whitfields had every year for 3 generations, in the grand house outside Boston with the twin staircases and the 20-foot tree. Grace Bennett had only worked as the estate's housekeeper for 4 months. She kept her head down, worked hard, and never talked about herself. Tonight her babysitter had cancelled at the last minute, so she'd brought her daughter Maya along, promising her she would nap quietly in the staff room until the party ended. But somewhere between the kitchen and the coat closet, a 3-year-old following the sound of Christmas music had wandered somewhere she was never supposed to go. Maya had climbed onto the antique gold sofa in the main hall, her small shoes swinging above the floor. Her teddy bear pressed to her chest like it was the only safe thing in the room. Diana Whitfield, Daniel's sister-in-law, noticed her first. "Sweetheart, this isn't a play area for the help's children," she said, reaching to pull Maya off the cushions. Maya's eyes filled with tears. She held the bear tighter and repeated the only thing she knew for certain. "I'm waiting for my mom." Grace came running the second she heard the commotion, her face burning with embarrassment in front of a room full of strangers in evening gowns. She apologized over and over, scooping Maya into her arms. Diana wasn't finished. "This is exactly the kind of thing that reflects poorly on our standards," she said to no one in particular, loud enough for everyone to hear. Someone near the bar murmured that maybe the housekeeper needed to be let go. Daniel was still across the room, watching from the staircase, too far to speak. But he was close enough now to see it clearly, the small hand-stitched paw on the bear's left foot, a detail no store-bought toy ever had. Grace pulled Maya close and started backing toward the kitchen, her cheeks flushed with shame. Eleanor Whitfield, Daniel's mother, frowned from her chair by the fire, clearly unhappy with the disruption to her party. "I'm so sorry," Grace kept saying. "My sitter cancelled. I didn't know what else to do. Please, I need this job." Diana crossed her arms. "It isn't about the job, it's about professionalism." The room felt colder with every word. Daniel crossed the hall in a few long strides and knelt down in front of the little girl, his voice gentle. "May I see your bear?" he asked. Maya looked at her mother first, then slowly held it out. Daniel turned it over in his hands, and his breath caught. He had commissioned exactly 12 of these bears from a small toy maker in Vermont years ago, and given them away only once, to the family of a man named Marcus Bennett. He looked up at Grace, his voice barely above a whisper. "Where did you get this bear?" Grace's hands were shaking. "It was my husband's," she said. "Marcus. He died 6 years ago, saving a little boy from a car that lost control on an icy road. His employer gave our family this bear afterward, because Marcus loved sewing patches onto things, and nobody could bear to throw it away." The room went silent. Daniel closed his eyes, and for a moment he was back on that road, 7 years old and pulled from the path of a skidding car by a driver who threw himself in front of it without a second thought. That boy had been his son. Daniel had spent over a year afterward trying to find Marcus's widow, to make sure she and her daughter never wanted for anything. But Grace had changed her name back to her own, moved twice, and quietly disappeared into a life of hard work and grief, tired of being looked at with pity. Neither of them had ever known the other was standing in the same house. Diana looked away, ashamed. Eleanor rose from her chair, one hand pressed to her mouth. Daniel knelt in front of Maya again, his eyes wet now, and said the only thing that mattered. "Your daddy saved my son's life." He saved my family. Maya didn't fully understand, but she reached out and patted his hand the way children do when they sense someone is hurting. Daniel stood and faced the room. "This woman," he said, his voice steady now, "is the widow of the bravest man I have ever known. For 6 years I looked for her family and couldn't find them. Tonight, by some kind of grace none of us deserve, she found me instead." He turned to Grace. "You will never scrub a floor in this house again. Not because you aren't capable, but because you are family, and it's long past time we treated you like it." He promised a full education fund for Maya, a home, and a place at every table the Whitfields ever set. Diana, quiet and red-faced, walked over and apologized, really apologized, for the first time all night. Eleanor pulled out the chair beside her own and asked Grace to sit. Outside, snow fell softly over the estate, and inside, under the 20-foot tree, a little girl finally stopped waiting, because for the first time in a long time, she was exactly where she belonged. And sometimes the smallest voice in the room is the one that changes the biggest heart. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes kindness can change the world. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below.